Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about all the talent nodes, not hero talents, just regular talent nodes that I want to see fixed or changed before the actual release of the War Within. Obviously, my last video was, not happy about some of the changes that just happened to Ret, and with that, I think it even more highlighted some really negative aspects as far as the talent trees go that many specs deal with, but I'm here to represent Ret Paladin. When it comes to the Paladin side, I don't have all the knowledge of the Holy Paladin mains or the Prot Paladin mains. So if I say something that affects you guys negatively, I'm just only speaking from the Ret side. Feel free to comment like how you feel as a Holy or Prot Paladin or whatever. I'm speaking only as Ret though for this feedback. This is what this video is deemed to be. Basically, is giving feedback on some of these talent choices. I'm not going to go over every single talent. Obviously, you could be like, "Oh, this talent could be improved" or whatever. I'm just going to go over the main ones that I think definitely need a change in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the most obvious thing, and that's the Crusader aura being Retribution aura being removed. Now we have Crusader aura here. As a Ret Paladin, you're forced to take this. It's automatically one of your points. Now I've seen other people suggest this. This is what I suggest as well, and everyone kind of is happy with the suggestion, I feel like, and that is to just either make auras baseline or make auras just one talent point where you just click auras and you have whatever auras, which right now are only two, available to Ret Paladin or to Paladins, and you just get the auras. So that way we don't have an wasted point Crusader aura. And you can put, and if you don't do that, at least you'd have to move Crusader aura somewhere else, in my opinion, where it's just a complete optionality, flavor talent or leveling talent or outdoor world talent, whatever. It's not going to have much functional use. It's just kind of you can min-max your farming and stuff or whatever with it technically. As we go down here, obviously, I can address this again, I guess, real quick. I spend way too much time talking about this, but they're never going to change it. But having 3 points to make your horse functional is kind of silly. At the very least, you could probably just make Seasoned Warhorse or something like that, just natural. Just always have that be that duration, and then maybe 1 talent point to get an extra charge. But even then, I think this is all just 1 talent point. I think the way Paladins work, since you're not giving us any other movement, in my opinion, we should always have 2 charges of it, and it should last long enough for us to get out of a mechanic. So that's just my opinion on this. I absolutely hate that we use 3 talent points here. And if you count Crusader aura, because it actually affects Divine Steed, we actually have like 4 talent points that while in combat are for our Divine Steed. It's just really, really silly to me. That I could just go on and on about that. As we go down, I'd say Lightforge Blessing. I would like to see this buff because nobody even runs it. This one's not a huge deal, but I would maybe look into this. Can this number be increased at all? When you look at Ret Paladin healing, for example, it's lower than like many other hybrid classes are. It's lower than pure DPS class healing is. So I would possibly look into this. Obviously, you don't want it to be too strong to where the best thing to do in a dungeon is just to bring 4 Ret Paladins and a tank or something. But yeah, like I think that could be looked at a little bit. And then down here, we have 2 really worthless talents, which is Torch, Touch of Light, and Incandescence. No idea what their thinking is behind this. To my knowledge, they've never actually like put out a thing about these, but these are just worthless talents, at least for Ret. Maybe they are worth something to somebody else, but the damage that these things do, I don't understand how they can be a talent point, especially like way down here on the tree. Like, how is this talent point the same as Divine Purpose even, right? Like, that's just crazy to me. As we get down here, I would say having 2 points in Seal of the Crusader is maybe a little bit too much. Maybe just 1 point there, split the difference or something like that. The only issue you come up with that is you're then able to take everything with Divine Purpose. So I do see issues there, but that's just kind of issues of the way you created the talent tree. But yeah, we just have some worthless stuff here on the right side overall. It's just some really bad stuff, and this is technically like the Ret side of the tree, right? It's like Ret, Prot, Holy. Like that's how they're trying to frame this tree, and the Ret side of the tree just has so many worthless things on it. Obviously, I think there's some things that could be re-looked at as far as Fading Light. Now I think for Holy Paladins, maybe this is a different take, or Prop Paladins too. But for Rep Paladins, Fading Light is just pretty much never taken, because the shield is not enough to the recharging of your Holy Power stuff is better than the little small shield that you get. So I'd take a look at that as well. Maybe just a look at this choice node. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to go over every talent, but there's just some really bad talents on here. Let's try to stick more to the really bad ones though. As we come over here to the Retribution side, I'd like this perhaps looked at, Judgment of Justice. And why? 10% judgment, 10% judgment damage just isn't very much damage gain, and so I think probably like putting this as a PvP talent, which is kind of what it more functionally serves, would be better. And so I would like to see that happen, where we maybe move this and just put a new talent here. Maybe move some talents around that make more sense or something. But maybe just get rid of this and put something else there. Make up a new talent, whatever. This is more of a PvP talent. Again, I don't see anybody really running this. I don't even see people running it in PvP, but you could run this in PvP, of course. And yeah, maybe PvP talent there. As we go through, I'd like... Well, so here's a weird choice node. Rush of Light with Consecrated Ground. Again, this just doesn't really make sense. Consecrated Ground, no one's taking this really. It's not even really good for I'm a PvE brain, but I'm like, this isn't even really good for PvP or anything. Why does this talent even exist? This should be like just a talent that goes with a damage talent. It's just like a completely passive talent, but it's not even like passively good. it's just a weird talent in my opinion, and it's on a thing with Rush of Light, which just doesn't make any sense. I would imagine the Consecrated Ground takers are extremely low among Rep Paladins, regardless of what content that they do. As we keep going, I would like this to be looked at, which is Divine Wrath, simply because if you're gonna have this node, I think it's really silly to not work with Radiant Glory. So, and I'm not like, I've as my stance on Radiant Glory is, I like it, but I don't want to play it for the entire expansion. I'd like to have some variety. I don't want Radiant Glory just to be, oh, we're always Radiant Glory spec as Rep Paladins. Well, Radiant Glory right now, we are going to probably be using it in Season 1, and it doesn't even go with Divine Wrath. So when you take Radiant Glory, this talent just doesn't do anything, which is always silly. It's very similar to Crusading Strikes not doing anything with Wind Fury totem or whatever. It's just kind of silly. It's like, wow, like, why do I just not get any benefit of anything by taking this talent? It's just a really silly problem, that they never really found an answer to. And yeah, I would like to see that looked at in some way, either changing the way Divine Wrath works or something, because I don't think you should have talents that just don't affect things. For me, that's just silly. As we go through, Vanguard of Justice, I mean, I've talked about this pretty extensively already. This needs to be 1 point. And even then, it could use like a complete redesign as well. I get what they're going for, and I actually had some comments saying, well, I think they're going for this, and I agree with what they're going for. I just don't think they accomplish it with this. The way this talent is just, it's not good. It's like overcomplicated for what they're trying to accomplish, right? Like they're kind of trying to accomplish combining it with Empyrean Legacy and with Inquisitor's Ire, but that's like 4 talent points to like kind of do the thing that they're trying to accomplish. And it to me is just not super effective. It's not I think it just needs a complete relook, and it needs to only be 1 point for what they're trying to accomplish. As we keep going, Blessed Champion, this needs to be 1 point. Again, 2 points for our, why do we have to do 2 points for our Judgment to cleave? Well, if you do 1 point, it kind of cleaves. Again, this is just kind of silly to me. It's unnecessary. Now, I know that other specs have 2 point talents, and I'm basically saying to get rid of all of our 2 point talents. Our 2 point talents just don't make any sense, right? If it was like, oh, here's Final Verdict, and then you could put another point into Final Verdict, and it increases the damage by 10%. That would almost make more sense for the way Rep Paladin's built, right? Oh, I want that 10% more because I want to put it into my execution sentence, right? But then you might not take that 10% more when you're in your AoE build for Mythic Plus, right? And so maybe you'd only put 1 point in it or something. But the way our two talent things are set up are just, the ones that have 2 points, which is not very many, is just not good, right? So I would like that to be looked at least, as far as that. And then as we go down. And then the last one's going to be Divine Auxiliary. Again, this is a talent that pretty much nobody uses. I actually like the talent. It's just not worth it being way down here. Like, you could move Divine Auxiliary up here, for example. Let's say you put Judgment of Justice as a PvP talent. You could put Divine Auxiliary up here, and it's just like an optional thing or something. Like, yeah, everybody would take it if it was up there, I guess. So maybe that's the argument of why it's down here. Because if it was like free, everybody would take it. But it's also not worth a capstone, right? So it's like, maybe it should be somewhere in the middle. Maybe they should just get rid of it completely. But this talent, again, is just not really played. Again, could be used in PvP, but even then, like, I don't see this used in PvP, at least not when on the occasion that I watch, like, the arena tournament or anything. I don't really see Ret Paladins running Divine Auxiliary, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do on the ladder, or maybe they have in the tournaments and I haven't paid attention close enough. But I certainly do not notice it at all if they are. I never see anybody running this. So, yeah, that would be the last one that I look at. So, if we just go through the main ones, it would be Crusader Aura, 3 points for Horse, these two talents that don't really do anything, Incandescence and Touch of Light. These things basically do nothing. I don't even know if they know that they do nothing. And then when we move over here to the Ret side, it would be Judgment of Justice I'd like looked at. Either just get rid of Consecrated Ground, whatever. And then 2 point rework Vanguard of Justice, plus it's 2 points, which is bad. Blessed Champions, 2 points. I would love this to be 1 point because it would just make more sense. It just seems like a weird place to have 2 points. And then Divine Auxiliary. And then an honorable mention with the whole Radiant Glory, Divine Wrath thing, just because, again, it just doesn't make sense. It's very similar. Well, if you pick Crusading Strikes, you don't get Wind Fury because we don't know how to make it work. So, okay, so maybe you need to do something different with it or something, right? I would like to see that explored as well. So I wanted to just give some feedback here because these are things that none of these things are like major, right? None of these particular things I'm talking about would like majorly change the spec in any way. We just kind of have like a bunch of wasted talents, and maybe we have less than other specs or something like that. And then we just have some silly things. The stuff on the Paladin tree is more silly, and then the Ret side is just stuff that doesn't really make sense. And so it's kind of a combination of the two things. But I would really like to see these things changed, make it a little bit more interesting, however that may be, before the War Within launches. So I wanted to give some actual feedback instead of just complaining. Obviously, I'm not offering solutions to everything. I offered a couple like little solutions or whatever. I'm just identifying problems for this. If you have solutions, or well, this is what I would do to fix Vanguard of Justice, or this is how Divine Auxiliary should work, or whatever. Feel free to put that down there in the comments, and I'll definitely read it. So, yeah, that'll be it for this one. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.